My name is Connie Gitlin, and I'm presently teaching at the University of Victoria, and I commute from Vancouver to Victoria to teach. I also do recital work in Victoria and in Vancouver. Um, I have recently explored the genre of klezmer music. And so I do a lot of classical, but I do some crossing over into klezmer, and I've enjoyed some collaborations with not only the usual of piano, orchestra, but also guitar and things that are a little bit more folk oriented. And I've really enjoyed that broadening out. And I, for many years, played in the Winnipeg Symphony and the chamber orchestra, and I'm totally looking forward to being back soon.
We're so excited that the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra will be premiering Randolph Peters' Luminous in March. And this piece was written especially for you and the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra. So could you tell us a bit about how this came about?
Okay, so I think it was at least 2 years ago, if not more than 2 years ago, which is hard to imagine. But Vicki Young, the general manager of the Chamber Orchestra, approached me. She wrote to me with this idea of Randolph writing a piece for clarinet and orchestra, and not only writing a piece, but writing a piece with me in mind, which is like very, very special. And at first, frankly, I was considering it, and I didn't jump at it until I got a description of the piece and what he had in mind and why he thought it might be a nice combination of having me perform it. I thought, I can't say no to this. I thought, that's an amazing opportunity. I'm very, very honored that I have the opportunity to do this.
So would you say it was a collaborative process throughout when he was still creating the piece, or was it written already?
So it wasn't written at that time. It was, the process of Randolph, putting ideas down and actually right to the finished product. And then he sent me the finished product, but the kind of person and composer he is, he was very open to suggestions. And I did have a few suggestions, what worked on the clarinet a little bit better, what didn't work quite as well, and if he'd consider changing some of the effects. And he was, of course, very amenable to all of that. And he also wanted to give me the artistic license to make any additions that I wanted to add, not just that of what was written on the page, but in terms of my own interpretation, which I really appreciated a lot. So it was collaborative in a very amicable way, which is great.
Very nice. And would you tell us a little bit more about working with Randolph, and also have you worked with him before?
Well, we go back a long ways because when I played in the Winnipeg Symphony, he was composer in residence. I don't remember the exact years, but for a number of years. And he also was the head of the New Music Festival. So he was not only the head of that and organizing it, very instrumental in all aspects of it, but we played a number of his works as well. And so we go back quite a number of years, and I enjoyed playing his works then. And this has been a great opportunity again to revisit that.
Very nice.
In a very unique way.
Yeah, this piece is inspired by the life and art of Marc Chagall, and Randolph writes, I think his art is suffused with a quality that can only be called numinous. This rarely used word means filled with a sense of the divine. Chagall evokes a sense of awe and wonder in his art, his life, and his loves. The luminosity of his art is numinous. So Connie, in what ways does this music reveal those qualities?
Wow, what a great question. Well, first of all, I'm glad he had in the description, it says that the word is rarely used because I had never heard of the word before, numinous. But it's a pretty awesome word. So first of all, I will say that what attracted me to this concept and of the piece is that I was in Israel many years ago, and I went to see the Chagall windows that are located in Jerusalem at the Hadassah Hospital. There is a small synagogue within the hospital. And it was many years ago, but I clearly remember how dramatic and how awe-inspiring the windows are. So they're set in this very small synagogue. And of course, the lighting streaming in through these beautifully colored windows that really, really stayed with me. It was it's very moving, really, to see that. And tying that together with the word numinous. So I know that Chagall came from a deeply religious family, and the artwork that is depicted by the stained glass there are a lot of beautiful symbols of religious nature, and but it's a very, very personal thing in terms of what that can evoke in the listener. What is the divine? It's very personal to each individual. So when I heard the music in my mind, and when I started playing it, I thought it's almost the type of piece where somebody could close their eyes and just have their own inner experience, hopefully an experience of some kind of transcendence, the same sort of transcendence that I felt when I looked at these amazing windows. And then now I'm looking at the music right here, when I can only imagine what it's going to sound like with everyone, because it's an absolutely new piece, right? So I can only look at the score, look at my part, and imagine all of the colors in the music. And I think it's a very, very individual and personal experience, and but an experience and sounds of hopefully transcendence. So I think it's a very, very beautiful concept, and I'm going to look forward to it coming to life when we actually perform it.
Do you think the clarinet is especially suited to that style, those qualities?
I actually do. Maybe because I'm a clarinetist.
Yeah.
But I do. There's a certain technique that he has used where it says on the music that it starts from niente. So it starts from absolutely nothing. And it's something that it's a little bit easier to do on the clarinet, to just sort of let that color of the sound just come from nowhere. And that is something that I think it's divine in a different sort of way. So whether it's in a very low register of the clarinet or a middle high register, just to float in on some of those notes to change the color is something that I enjoy doing on the clarinet. And he's made wonderful use of that effect. The effect of, there's a little tiny bit of the klezmer feeling when there's some slides, from one note to another. Again, if you think of colors sort of blending one to another, there's some jagged sections where the colors just, are bursting forth from, the sunlight behind the stained glass windows. So I guess that's a way of saying, yes, I totally think that the clarinet really lends itself to that as well. Yeah, absolutely.
I couldn't agree more as a clarinetist also.
Great,
sure.
We're on the same page for sure.
Yeah. So when you sit down to start learning a piece, especially a new piece that's just been written and you don't even know what it's going to sound like with the ensemble yet, what is your process? Do you have a general jumping off point, or do you change your approach for each piece?
Right. Well, so definitely I would have a different approach for each piece, but I can say that in my teaching, when I'm teaching my university students, when they're first looking at a piece, I say it's so important to get a concept of the piece, first of all, in your ear and in your mind, in your heart. And so I encourage them to listen to different recordings so that they can actually hear the piece as a whole. As clarinetists, I mean, we have one line to play. Not, it's not the same as being a pianist or being able to play many notes at the same time. We have one line. So it's really a good thing if you can hear everything that goes with that one line. In this case, when we have a fresh piece of music and I have a score, I'm looking at the score, I'm wondering what all those sounds are actually really going to be like. So in a way, it feels like, is it a little bit of a disadvantage? It's a little bit of an advantage as well, because I sort of have that in my mind's ear, and then imagining how we're going to bring that all together. So I'm looking at my individual part and imagining how it fits in with everything else. And it's a little bit of a discovering process.
You said that there's some glisses and some of the different klezmer inspired features in the piece. Maybe you want to kind of talk through some of those.
Well, I have to say that Randolph just invited me to add whatever I wanted. So that's like the ideal composer for a performer, is that I can add whatever I want. That's fantastic. So I'm adding a little bit here and there, and you know what? Even at the rehearsal, I might decide to add something or take it away, depending on how it sounds with all the other instruments. Um, but at passages where I think of the colors, just again, one kind of melding or sliding into another. Sometimes one note just doesn't clearly lead to another. Sometimes, in expressing ourselves, one word doesn't clearly lead to the next word. It needs a little bit of preparation. And the second movement of what he's written here, it is, it's dance-like. I'd say that there's even an earthy quality to it. And so, just the music itself has that really joyous klezmer sort of spirit to it. And so a little bit of my own additions and combined with what he's written, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what comes out.
Yes, for sure. Thank you. That's such a great introduction to the piece. It tells us a lot about what we're going to hear. So that's fantastic.
Great. Okay. My pleasure, for sure.
And so we'd love to know, when you're in Winnipeg next month, what else do you have planned?
Well, I did spend many years in Winnipeg. I think, wow, it could have been close to, I think, 20 years in Winnipeg. And so I've made a lot of wonderful connections with people. And I think for me, that's what Winnipeg is all about. It's really the close, the close community of people. And I really look forward to, musically being on stage with musicians that I have collaborated with many years ago, with new musicians, even a feeling from the audience. And so I'll have a few days, and hopefully I'll be able to connect up in a personal level with some of those people that I've known many years ago, and really enjoy doing that.
And what are you most looking forward to when you perform Luminous with the Manitoba Chamber Orchestra in March? And what do you hope the audience will experience at the concert?
Well, I'm most looking forward to being on the stage in Winnipeg. I really, it's a very special feeling having that history, and it just feels like coming home. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and also looking forward to a successful performance. And not very often do you see a piece of music that I have here on my stand that it says for Connie Gitlin. It's a wonderful honor, and so I'm really excited about bringing that to the audience, and what I would like the audience to experience. Well, I'm actually going to quote a student that I was just teaching this morning. And I asked her that question. I said, if you perform this for an audience, what would you like that audience to? I asked her the same question. And just simply put, she says, I want to take them to I asked her if I could, if I'm asked this, if I can quote her. She said, absolutely. She said, I would love the audience to come to a different place, a brighter place, and for them just to have a little bit better day than they would have otherwise. And I thought that was so simple and so correct. And even to expand on that a little bit, because of the nature of this work, if there's some way that the music and the performance can provide some transcendence and provide an uplift and a beautiful experience for people, that's really my goal in performing.
Wow, thanks for that.
For sure, absolutely.
It was so nice to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you as well. And
see you in March.
Look forward to being in Winnipeg in March, and hopefully it won't be too terribly cold. Yeah. I lived there for many years. I'm used to it. I just have to get back in the zone.
Yeah.